Heavenly Father, we thank you, Lord, this day you've given us, Lord, this opportunity you've given us, Lord. Just put the wisdom and knowledge in our mind to do the will of the people, Lord, to send us here. And we give you the glory and we give you the honor, Father, for everything you've given us. In Jesus' precious name.
Amen. Can everyone recite the pledge? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now call the Swain County Commissioners, Swain County Board of Education work session, January 26, 2023, 5:30 to order. And the item of discussion for today is the Black Hill property for our new middle school. So, Kevin, you want to start us off, or somebody want to start us off?
So back, I guess it was last summer, we were talking about the critical needs grant and the need to fill out the application for one. But I think it was trying to figure out where to put it. And the track came up during that whole process, so been trying to identify a place for a new track, and so then this property on Black Hill came available, where at least I thought process happened around that. And so we've been in the mix of doing that. We developed a land swap because the previous board didn't want to be landlords anymore at the other plant, basically. Mm-hmm. And so we wanted to kind of switch that out, which benefited the school with this new property. And so we had several meetings. I think I attended a couple school board meetings along with the previous chair, talking about this project and process, and came up with the thing that, yeah, it was a good idea. And I think it was a unanimous decision to go along with the land swap. I think it was in October or November, they decided to do the land swap, which we did that all by state law. You have to publicize it for 10 days, and you have to have a public hearing. So all of that transpired, basically. There was no public comment at the public hearing about it. It kind of went through seamlessly. So now we're in the process. So that engaged that process to finish out the transaction, which should be happening in the next several months. There was two or three things that board wanted to see happen. One was the environmental concerns, and I think that was also a stipulation by the school board, if there was any, and make sure that the site was free of contamination, which is all part of the contract. Also mitigation money, just in case something happened, during the time period that they had, which is 24 months to get the building down. Some cost settlement, so we put in $500,000 of liquidated damages. If they don't do it within 24 months, we'll be able to recoup $500,000 back, and then we would take down the building ourselves. So all of that has transpired. All of it's in an agreement, and all of it at this point has been approved by the land owner. And so now we're waiting on him to sign it, and once it comes back, the air chair will sign it. And then we will have the Black Hill property in county possession. I think this meeting was kind of gathered because just to make sure everybody is on the same page about how all that transpired, because it is a board, a previous board had initiated it and kind of come into a new board, just making sure all the new members, one, know how the transaction started, the kind of the thought process that had happened with the previous boards on securing this site, looking at the site. I'd made a comment to our board, I think at one meeting in the past, was enlightening when the architect came to us and talked about how much it costs per cubic foot or cubic yard to get rid of dirt. And so living in the mountains, that's one of the biggest expenses you're going to have. And when we're talking about moving, it's going to cost like $5 million to move enough dirt to get a school site. When this site on Black Hill, the 17 acres, is totally flat. There's no excavation cost or minimal excavation cost. And so that's one of the big things. The other one is, of course, access to sewer, water, high-speed internet, gas, all of that is on this side. So there was a lot of positives to the side. We not only heard from staff with the school, but we also heard from architects. I think they had an engineer here that night. So all of those folks kind of was singing the same thought as far as the rationale why you should explore this option. And so after that, I think a couple literal napkin sketches were given out on the possibilities. And so we kind of went that method, and like I say, we went through the process, the legal process of land swap, which all happened, and that's kind of how it all
Yeah.
went out.
We wanted to get with you guys and just kind of make sure that we're all on the same page again, and making sure that our focus is kind of the same, and, you know, kind of getting some of your mindset on what you think should happen next, or what's gonna happen next, or how that, you know, the funding's coming available, the grant cycle again, and, so we can all be, again, on that same page of knowing where we're at and where we want to be. So I kind of open it up for discussion on that if you want to.
I mean, I think the plan is still straightforward. We're still gonna be moving forward, with the funding, trying to get funding, however that may be, but I think that, right now, the land's not gonna get any cheaper than it is, so that we needed to secure the foundation first, quite literally, secure the foundation for the schools first, and then go to that next step in order to try to do that, because the upkeep, certainly for the middle school right now, we're at the point of diminishing returns, for such an old building and complex like that, so we're just, once we get the foundation going, we're gonna move to the next step, and I think that's where we're at.
So. Are there any other facilities planned on this property? I mean, what are we looking at?
Potentially, we're looking at a middle school, potentially a pre-K. There's been discussion of track maybe, but that's superfluous to the main goal of a middle school and a pre-K.
Any more discussion on that? If you got anything, any updates on the grant, or what does that cycle look like, Mr.
It
Sullivan?
looks like that the cycle will open back up probably September, October, at the end of this long session budget discussion. I am encouraged that there is conversation in Raleigh already about funding additional grants. However, the competition is going to be just as real as it was before.
Gotcha. You guys, we got a couple new members. You got any questions on anything about this property, as far as what we utilize?
Have you thought about how you're gonna get the kids home from that side of town? When we can't get our high school kids away from high school now. What are you gonna do when you put all your kids on one side of town?
Well, that'll be, I mean, the traffic there, having both the areas of Fontana Road, and the new, road that has been built, around the back of it. So we're gonna have hopefully numerous areas of ingress and egress, to that area. Certainly, infrastructure is a concern when you put another building there, but we'll try to, incorporate that and look at that, as best as we can. It's probably, hopefully it'll be no worse than sometimes that it is right now trying to get kids to the middle school.
We're trading a piece of property. It says right here, total appraisal value, $2,858,000. Swain County's trading this for 18 acres of land. It's a lot of money per acre, ain't it? A lot of money per acre. We had another piece of property here that the school board bought, or the county bought, for y'all to build a school on. 30 acres. I believe we give $3 million for it, didn't we? Is that correct? $3 million?
It was $67,000 an acre.
And, let's see what the value of it we've got here. Total value of it, we give $3 million. The value of it is $267,000. So if the county decides to sell it, I don't believe we could get a quarter of our money back. Big difference. Big difference. I don't like this deal that much for 18 acres of land. I don't. And most of all, on this 30 acres, what bothers me the most is down here at one corner of it, somebody, it looks like it's cut out maybe an acre and a half. Bobby and Betty Marr, it says there, at that corner of that plot. Do y'all remember who sold us that piece of land?
That was not in the, I wasn't there when all this was done, but the piece that Bobby got was not in that original tract of land. There was, I don't even remember who owned it. There's somebody owned that little piece that was from, I don't know, I just remember he found it, from what I understood, and bought it from that individual. It was not part of the 45 acres.
School superintendent when we made that purchase?
I don't know if he was, no, Robert White was in there, I believe, at that time, yeah. But that was there, I guess, for sale, even after that transaction took place. I never did.
Yeah, we didn't carve anything out, or nothing was carved out of the file. That was already carved out.
I know I've talked to the town a little bit, and I know we're gonna have to have different infrastructure for the Black Hill property, or certain parts of the sewer line and the water line's gonna have to be improved. I'm not exactly sure. I asked them about it, they didn't really elaborate on that. I'm sure that's been thought of and probably going into a plan, beforehand as well. You guys, I know you guys are on board with that, but have we talked to any engineers? I know we had an engineer at one time.
We haven't spoken with an engineer specifically about this property, no. I'm prepared to do so, and I have one on standby at any point.
Okay, all right. I didn't know if you guys had one already or what.
Also, the town has got a new engineer coming on this month, so they'll be able to help us.
That's right. They hired an engineer, right?
Yes, Nate, that used to be with McGill, who's done a lot of our projects. He's gonna be the new town engineer, so he can answer a lot of these questions for us. Going back to the comment about the traffic piece, Chris Lee has already stated that there's actual money available to do it like a turnout lane, and actually all the bus turnaround, and for the parents coming, parent drop off, all of that. He said there's money now available in the General Assembly to make that happen. So that's not a part of the project as well. That's a totally different section. So.
Well, now, at 3 o'clock, a lot of evenings, I see the train. I don't believe there's no turnouts for it or nothing. It sort of blocks it until it gets ready to get out of the road. And gridlock. I've said it's red lots a lot of times where they turn from red to green and you can't go nowhere.
There's gonna be another red light down there too.
Yeah, there's another.
At the tracks, ain't
Mhm.
right there.
I
before you
think
get
so.
to
I heard them
the
talk
track.
about that.
There's gonna be a signal out there.
But one of the processes, and Roger currently sits on the RPO, with any engagement in like school or any bigger factories and things like that, you put it in an RPO plan. And so when all that comes up, which is the rural planning organization for DOT, so once all that happens, it's going to get into the system and the short-term infrastructure STIF. I can't remember that actual acronym. But anyway, it goes into that short-term transportation plan. Yeah, short-term transportation plan. Anyway, so once that gets there, it'll go into another section, and this type of thing with schools, it gains points, and points is what you're after to get on those STIF. So one of the things that the board, I think, had some dialogue is a third bridge across the river, which definitely this would qualify. It's been needed for years. I mean, back in 2004 when we had the floods, we had to shut down almost both the bridges during that time period, and there was no access. And so it's definitely needed for this community to look at a different way to get it from west to the east, as far as or north-south, whichever one it is.
I too, again, Mr. Chairman, would like to see a loop road from Toot Hollow across back behind Hospital Hill over to West Deep Creek on this front end. You have one way in, one way out, always had it to your hospital. It'd be nice if there was a second way off of that hill and another road. That might help alleviate traffic, maybe to the new bridge we're asking for. If we're looking at Deep Creek for a third bridge placement area. Anyway, in case the public don't know, we've been asked by our local representatives to ask for what we think our community needs. I think a third bridge in Bryson City would alleviate a lot of traffic on the other side of the river. So, you know, we're asking. I don't know if we'll ever get it or not. I was told one time as chairman, don't ask for a bridge. Please don't ask for a bridge.
We'll just keep asking.
Other counties have been asking for bridges and they got theirs. It's Swain County's turn to get theirs. If that's what we think we need, we should get it. And I'm aggravated a little bit about the larger counties taking precedence and taking over a lot of our DOT funds. Swain County's roads are not paved right now. Why? Because we got to do Jackson and Haywood first, and you know, and make them. And I hate to be saying that at this meeting. I'm at the wrong meeting, but anyway, it just gripes me to no end that our roads don't deserve pavement too, and they could have done it this summer. Anyway, that's beside the point. But you know, I think that the smaller issues about traffic, about getting around, about being accustomed to something, all can be gotten used to. It's whether or not that we want to spend lots of money on a school that's getting unrepairable. I mean, it's way older than I am. Yeah. Built in the 40s and 50s, I guess, and the gymnasium up there is way older than that. So it's not whether it's the right time or the wrong time, it's the right time to get started on something like this, I feel like. And, you know, I want to support the project myself, you know, talking about that, all these other things. Does it cost money? My gosh, what don't cost money? But they're printing more of it every day.
Yeah.
You know, the people, powers that be that are up in Washington, it's no problem to print it. They've got the press. They've got the plates. The money will come. And all of this planning, you know, they always tell you, look at it, that you're planning like you don't have a budget. You've got all the money in the world to work with. So, you know, if this thing's meant to be, the money will come, things will happen. That's all I need to say.
I might add to your comments that it actually will save money. What he's doing with this 18 acres where up there, the plant, it was gonna cost us a minimum of $5 million on that 45 acres.
Yeah, just to make it
And that's an
usable.
underestimate, because that did not include the studies we did, what, 10 years ago or 8 years ago? On rock studies, it's got rock in it. So that's gonna increase that cost. That was just a cost to cut it down without running into a lot of rock. So the cost of excavation to build any kind of facility up there was gonna be astronomical.
Expensive.
So that's a savings in up here when you got a flat piece of land, and that's the advantage of it. And I don't know what they had in mind. 45 acres, my understanding was they thought it would be for the future high school. Well, we've added to that high school, so we don't need I mean, it's in pretty good shape, just
Should be in great
need to
shape.
keep up some stuff, but it's, a lot of it, they're fairly new.
So do we know what kind of a time frame we're looking at here? Of, like, if we got the grant and we proceeded to build, is that the next 2 years, 3 years?
I think 3 years would
3 years.
be an inside estimate, because there's a lot of engineering planning. You know, you could shoot for 3 years, but I would be disappointed if it was 4.
Okay. And the reason I'm saying that is because we just talked about this in our last meeting, the HVAC equipment for the middle school. we need to figure out what we're gonna do in the meantime till we get to that. So we do need to have discussion on it, and we may discuss that more in our budget process with you guys, but I just wanted to go ahead and be thinking about it.
Mr. Chair, I had a few questions. I know Mr. King, I think he said it was a unanimous vote before. It wasn't unanimous. I didn't like some things, but I wanted to know about some details that we were going to talk about with that trade. One of them was the manufacturing part. I was real leery of the manufacturing part. We've got people working there right now. How was that, was there any details? Has that been discussed?
Yeah, that's all taken care of.
What, he's just gonna let it be the same? And then I had questions on the sewer and water and all that. We've got, I would guarantee there's lots of money has to be spent to redo all that. It's probably terracotta pipe up there. Wouldn't you think?
With any, with any new project, it depends on the use. So Tuck City Mills had a use, a specific use, and it wasn't a consumer of sewer and water, unfortunately. I mean, it had minimal bathrooms, things like that. I do know that that pipe, especially the water, has already got the backflow preventer on it, which is about $20,000 bucks, which has the necessary water capacity. The pumping might be an issue, but that's not necessarily in the ground. That's physical plant items. As far as the sewer, anything you do anywhere, especially with the school system with sewer, it's going to cost you. And it may be, it's just like we did at West Elementary, when we were looking at that, or what we were looking at East Elementary with the new ELA sewer district, trying to mitigate that sewer off that side. It's the same deal. We're going to have within 15 years, we'll have to do something at East, with sewer. Just probably like we did at West, which we spent $400 grand, pumping it all the way into Bryson City. It's going to be the same thing up there. I mean, but it's not going to be 400,000. It'll be a lot less than what you think it is, because really sewer, it's not. I don't think you're going to have a pump station because of gravity, but I do think you're going to have, work with the town and their engineer to mitigate all of that, which can be done. I mean, it definitely can be done. There's already a 100-foot right-of-way on DOT, which we can put any pipe in DOT right-of-way. It's going to be it's not going to be a complicated process, is what I'm saying, to get it off that side to where it needs to go. It may dovetail back in. We have a hollow sewer project that was shelved in like 2004, I believe. That did not happen. We probably already have some initial engineering studies on that, because all that was going to kind of tie in.
So if the deal's done and we're moving on to the next step, what's the next step?
It depends on how fast you're going to go. I mean, in my mind, it looks better on paper if you can get an engineer, an architect involved, and go ahead and at least have a preliminary study and layout, conceptual design done, and that way people can get behind it. It's about any project.
That's the next plan, Mr. Parton, is to get our folks moving on that so that we can have that as part of the grant proposal. Because the more detail that you have for that, the better chance you have of getting them approved.
So now let's put the grant proposal aside, because the question about the HVAC and all this stuff, you're talking 3 minimal years before the school and all this stuff. So we got to do something about that regardless. All that stuff at the middle school that everybody looked at has to be fixed, because we have to use the school. So if it's in that bad a shape, we can't keep saying, well, we're waiting, or we're going to wait on that school. We're going to have to fix the HVAC, and we're going to have to, if we're going to use the school. And I thought that I thought we were going to move if all this goes through and we build a school and the middle school goes up there, I thought the whole next decision, I thought what we were going to do next is move the pre-K to the middle school. So it has to be there anyways, because we're going to continue to use the building. For that, it still has to be safe. It still has to be fixed.
Yes.
No matter what. So Now, what's our next step? Are we gonna move on that stuff, or what's the,
We're gonna have to, Mr. Park. I don't know that we have to do it all at one time, but there are elements of it that we really need to take care of right away. We cannot delay any longer.
So we allocated the money at once for that already?
Twice, actually.
Twice.
But the problem is, and it's nobody's fault. It's, we were in the COVID era with supply chain issues, with even if we had ordered the equipment, we wouldn't have got it. It would have been 2 years out, I believe. And so, and on the advice of the engineer, Steve Kaufman, I believe, he's the one that said, we can bid it out, but you may not like the bids. And so that's why the bid was not done. I think now we're in a different time. I think now would be a good time to do that. Is it gonna cost you more? Yes. It's gonna cost you probably, maybe double what you were thinking for with the HVAC. But it's the world we're living in. I mean, it's what it is, so.
I have another thing also, the property, what we've got that we own, that Mr. Loftus here is talking about was the 30 acres. And the other section of that, is that all the 45 acres? So that's 30 acres and then it's the 15 more acres that's Yoon's on, right? And I know you guys had said something about relinquishing that to the county. Has that been done yet? Is that,
It has not.
that's what we talked about, though. Are we going to do that, or?
We are prepared, I should let you speak.
Yeah, no, that's fine, go ahead.
We're prepared to collaborate with this body, however you want to make that piece of property valuable to Swain County to the greatest amount.
What exactly would that mean?
That means that we could sell it, that means it could be developed. There are a lot of different ideas that I have heard, and we would be happy to collaborate with you for that to happen.
If somebody was to be interested in that land and wanted to develop it, it's possible that it could bring some value. I don't know if that's gonna happen, but I think we've heard you guys speak to that. That wouldn't be an issue to give that I mean, you'd be glad to give that property, or get that rid of that property to us.
My only advice on whatever we do with that property, if we do something with that property, is we set a buffer between our property and a buffer before somebody can't build right up against back of the football field or anywhere that's gonna be inside of where we're at. That's the only advice I have.
It wouldn't take much of
Yeah,
a piece of acreage as far as that.
yeah, just cut that off and
Pretty steep right there.
leave that buffer in there.
Yeah.
You guys have any questions for us?
Well, what do y'all think we should do with this property? Should we try to sell it and use that money towards, I mean, if the trade's a done trade, then we're sitting on property for a school. I don't want to be 10 years down the road or however long again, and everybody saying, well, them silly guys done the same thing. So we're either gonna have to make some moves to at least turn us in that direction. I mean, with selling it and putting that money towards it, or what do you think?
I think we need to talk about it, and I agree. It needs to be done soon, since we're getting this other piece of property, and we seem to be in agreement that that's where we can build on, because we don't need it. And I don't know what the best way to do it is, but you probably find out how the process is on that, where you
There's a lot of things you can do with it. It's another kind of open book. You can develop it as a county and make your own housing development, affordable housing in certain pieces of it, other higher end, you can sell off as lots. You can do all that as county government. You can do an affordable housing project, you can do a teacher housing project, you can do any number of things with it. if you want to. It is set up very good for a housing community. You could, like I say, on the top end, you could make a high-end housing and like I say, so you might sell the lots for $100,000 a piece. I don't know. I mean, there's all kinds of things that could be done with it. And then the lower piece, you might want to do a apartment building. We talked about getting some money from the State Employees Credit Union Foundation to do a housing / public sector affordable housing, or someplace like the Evelyn Foundation did over in Asheville, something like that, which is definitely a big need in our community. I've heard from several people, including I think 2 teachers, contacted me about affordable or place to stay,
Yes.
that sort of thing. So that could be an initiative, since it was, the land was originally gonna be for education, that would definitely fulfill a need of education.
Yes.
Right now, because that's what they're having a problem with. And going back to, I know Kenneth we've had this conversation before, it should be for everybody.
Yes.
And it is a problem for everybody. Affordable housing is a problem for everybody. But I guess going through that motion, since this property was educational funded at one point, it would be very good to have maybe one, at least a piece of it, to be put back in for affordable housing for a teacher or that segment of the workforce. So, but like I say, it's an open canvas.
Yes.
Y'all can do whatever you want to do with it. If you just want to sell all as a whole, if you want to develop it and sell lots, if you want to get a survey up there and trim it all up and sell them as lots, you can bid it off, whatever. I mean, you still have to go through the bidding process.
Yeah.
But you can negotiate a price for, like somebody said, I want to pay $150,000 for this lot. Then you say, okay, if there's not upset bid in 10 days, you got it. If there is, then you have to bid on it, whatever. It's the same process. So
That's one of the
only
things that
stipulations.
I kind of asked in the beginning when we started talking about this was, you look at the tax value or the appraisal of, 20 acres or 30 acres or 45 acres, whatever. But, in collaboration, what can the county or the school or even together, what other opportunities does that open up as far as affordable housing or, something for teachers? And then can that create revenue for the county? Because I think, just maybe selling is just kind of a one done, you get paid and it's over. But is there something that can be done to create like consistent revenue for the county and, or however that works? So I don't know if doing something in partnership opens up more opportunities for that. I don't know the inner workings of that, but.
But when Kevin's talking about the State Employees Credit Union, that has to be a partnership. It's a collaborative work. They've done that in Buncombe County already. Rutherford County is doing the same thing right now, where they're taking RS Middle School that they're no longer using, and they're taking a large portion of that, and through these funding opportunities that we're talking about, are turning it into housing.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's designed for teachers, and I believe that there are other people in our community that also need housing.
Right.
Too, and I would like to see that as part of the picture. But I've said before, and I'll say it again, I would be pleased to be part of a collaborative opportunity where we take that and we work together to answer some of these problems. Because we're losing people all the time.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a need for the housing, and if the school technically has, part of the property, that alone might be,
Yes.
might be something, but.
And I also think, Mr. Siegel, that our board is very interested in the way that I think that Mr. Parton presented this just a few minutes ago, and that is, whatever happens with that, we would hope that would come back towards education somehow, because there's educational cost that's coming in different ways for facilities, and that would be a way to recover what has already been spent for that intent.
I know one of the things that we'd said in the beginning was that what Jerry was saying was the excavation, for a big middle school is a huge undertaking. But if you're looking at developing, you're not necessarily looking at flattening out 15 acres as a whole. So, looking at the land survey and that kind of thing, how does that, is excavation totally different when you're looking at it like that in lots or breaking down?
How much have we got in the 15 acres? Away from the 30-acre plot?
1 million.
1 million for 15 acres.
My thoughts after hearing you guys talk is, like Lisa said, I think a collaboration of figuring out how to make it work for all of us and make it work for the county, rather than if you sell it off again, you do get the tax value back on it, you always get that, but then, we lost a chunk of land that we might be able to do something to benefit the county better than just selling it off. If you know, if we needed the money, usually, most people sell land when they need money. And, you know, but we always need money, but we need affordable housing, we need, community, you know, I think that would be a great idea, just kind of collaborate, kind of put our minds together and say, hey, what do we want? What do we need here? And then come up with a good plan of, maybe like a community development plan of, what is this gonna look like? What can it look like? I think that would benefit us more, 10 years down the road, that we still have this a functional place of housing or whatever. I think it'd be great.
Ken, I was just thinking, you know, the land swap's done, and we got a middle school up there, we toured that, and y'all probably toured those old HVAC systems, and man, I admire the school system for keeping them going, but it looks like there's Band-Aids all over. But also, the principal up there was saying one day that temperature in some of those rooms is 50 degrees. You know, we gotta address that. I'm all about getting our kids up academically. I wouldn't expect a child to sit in a room 50 degrees and try to learn something. I mean, if that was at my house, I'd be doing all I could to get it fixed. We need to figure out, I think the land swap's done, we're working on a grant. We'll do everything we can on that, but we gotta address that middle school. We gotta get some heat in there. You know, and I don't know how the funds come. I'm new on this. I don't know how the funds come, but the first funds there, we need to figure out how we work together to get some heat for them kids in there.
Like I said, we've allocated it twice, and we'll look at that again on our new budget for this year. And also, that was one on the list that we sent to Representative Clampett to find funding for the middle school HVAC. So I think they did address it as well. I mean, just no matter what we're doing in the future, we've got to fix the present. So we can't overlook that. So I agree.
So we need to do a grant and give it to Representative Clampett, I guess, then.
A request, and that's what I was talking about a little while ago. I would like to meet with you all very soon and develop some requests for him. And I suggested that we join with the commissioners.
You need to do it before the end of January.
We'll have,
Okay.
dang, that's next Monday.
Because I asked him when this had to be in. He says it's got to be in for the end of January.
Is that a collaborative effort between the school and
I believe
I stuck that on our list.
it's there.
Okay.
And I
It
can-
is there.
I can, if you want to give to me a quick list, I can have that in his hand tomorrow. Okay?
What other problems has our middle school got?
I mean,
I've not been in there since I went to school, RL.
I wish y'all could tour it. I mean, I was amazed how bad that system is and the work that's been put in to just keep it going.
Yes.
I congratulate Mark and Tommy and Wayne and all of them that works on that. It's, have you seen it, Roger?
I haven't been up there in a long time.
I mean, yeah.
Or I haven't toured it.
Walk through there and tour it with them.
Mr. Loftus, HVAC's a big piece, okay? And we do keep it running, but sometimes it takes time to get things fixed.
Traffic up there.
Traffic is, and we had the traffic people come from Raleigh and study that, and they won't do anything to mitigate that because of the regulations that they have. Electrically, it needs to be updated, and we've looked at that as well. The gym, you remember the big gym? The same bathrooms are in the big gym that were there when you were there. And we've looked at that from different aspects too.
And just space, it's on like 7.5 acres or so.
Yeah, the campus is actually too small. And then we've got the fact that to access the field, you're crossing the road. Well, that's always been that way. Those are the primary things. The cafeteria, needs some updating. We've got a plan to work on a sewer system concern there. Seems like sewer system is in my mouth every day right now. And we've got men who can do that work for us, and that's our plan. There's just a lot that needs to be done.
So we need to address them the worst problems to keep that school going for 4, 5 years, you think?
And the HVAC, and that's what we're saying, the HVAC is the first thing. We've got the sewer piece working. There's nothing we can do about the traffic. You have to ask the question, do we want to spend the money to update the bathrooms if we're going to move forward? But that would be down the road anyhow, probably, you know? But I agree with you 100%. We need to address that now. And we're ready to move.
And I also say whatever we do to the middle school, just my suggestion again, is we do it for the future of what are we gonna do with the middle school. So we don't put $800,000 worth of HVAC in there and then decide we're gonna tear this middle school down,
Right.
you know? So we can kind of a little bit of thought process on that.
But there is some potential there, again, for ideas and stuff, I think, too.
What happens to the middle school when we get our new school? What
That's
does it
what-
fall back to?
Yeah.
Falls back to the county or
Yes.
to the school?
Yeah.
Mr. Loftus, and I'm talking too much. We had originally thought of putting a pre-K there, and we could still do that. Of course, that would cost renovation money. That would put it in use. There's also been some discussion about turning it into apartments and housing itself. And that's been very limited discussion. I believe that is worth additional conversation. I don't think that can be decided tonight, other than we've got to do something with it.
I had two things I wanted to ask about. Well, maybe comments more than questions. As we're aware, we live in a different climate than when the middle school, elementary, well, it was the elementary school, when all that was built. So the idea that going outside and changing classrooms outside with the, you know, you're not in the safety of the building itself, but you're changing classrooms. There's just a lot of things that have changed over the years from the time that those things were built to the climate we live in now. So it's always something we need to be aware of and be thinking about. The second thing is I wanted to make sure on that property that it does come back to us. Are we positive? There's a little tick in the back of my brain that says, does that property, if it's not being used for school system, maybe reverts to the original? It was donated with under, there's just a little something that's trying to remind, that it was donated for school use, and if school wasn't up there, it would go back to the original.
Talking about up on Schoolhouse Hill?
Yes.
That's the first time I've ever heard that. But
Well,
anyway.
I hope it's not true. There's just, for some reason, that's popped into my head. I want to make sure that we're aware of that and find out.
We'll
about it.
we'll check with the attorney, but I
I
don't
thought
think
it'd be county
that
property.
that's correct. I think it'll revert to the county if it's not gonna be used for education. That's why it's flowed on all the other, parcels we have.
I just want to make
Going
sure, I wanted to make sure we're on some kind of legal, that suddenly the heirs of the original
So going back
step
to
forward.
this history where everybody understands, so before the critical need grant, we were entertaining the problem at the cafeteria at the middle school. We were trying to address that problem.
Yes.
And then it was decided, well, maybe we just need to get rid of that cafeteria. Make a new media center, move the cafeteria into where the gymnasium is and do a new seating out front, that sort of thing, have the bus traffic up there dropping off around the building. So there's all kinds of planning. The planning goes on all the time, it seems like. But that was the plan. And then by the time you do the bus traffic back around like it used to be years ago between the buildings, it would actually come around where the cafeteria is now, drop off and going out, and that would alleviate a lot of your traffic concerns because the bigger was traffic. So then this is how we got to where we are now with the new complex, because there were so many other issues with it.
Yes.
Plus, that was going to be probably about a $5 or $6 million project. By the time you added a new kitchen, new dining area, new media center, and then all of the infrastructure around it to make it all happen, it's going to be about a $5 or $6 million project, I believe was the estimate. So just in context, we want to make sure everybody understands that it's all the time planning. There's all the time planning going on A, B, C, D, E, F. And that's kind of what we do. It's our job. We have to give you all options. So there's all kinds of options with that school.
Yes.
You know, it can be an affordable housing complex. It can be a youth center. We just got through talking about a youth center. It can be all kinds of things. But it's just going to take a collaborative effort and kind of pick a route and go with it. But that's, like I say, I think that's for a later discussion. But there's, like I say, just keep your mind open, and whatever's best for the community, it should be best, you know, what this body as a whole does. So.
I'll tell you something we probably can't do. We looked at this, like you said, we studied it 8 years ago, 10 years, something like that. And we had some plans drawn up
Yes.
to tear down some buildings, do that. But part of that was that those rock buildings, and we caught more flack over that than anything we've done. Nobody cares about that 50s building, the rock building. I mean, the brick building, I mean, it's old and dilapidated. Nobody cares about it. But they want to keep those OCCC buildings that were built back in the 30s, I guess.
1930s.
And they are structurally sound.
Yeah.
We've renovated inside, so whatever we do with it, we probably do will keep those intact. The rest of it, they don't care about because they're old and ugly. We run into that one time.
Brick facade.
You remember that?
Care about the brick.
Well, I think we discussed a lot of stuff. I guess you're gonna go back with your board and kind of discuss what we discussed on some of the stuff, but we're clear on the Black Hill property, we're good to go on that. But we'll come back up in the budget session with some more, the HVAC and stuff like that, we'll talk about that. And I guess maybe you and Kevin can get together and figure out a date on that, or we can.
Maybe sometime in March, I guess.
Yeah, we can do that, and I think by that time, Mr. Siegel, that I can also have our engineers, architects begin to do us some thumbnail sketches,
Okay.
just to give us an idea of what could happen with some of the different scenarios we're talking about.
Yeah.
Just ideas.
Okay. We appreciate you guys coming, being with us. I like the collaborating meetings because I think a lot of times, a lot of stuff is missed in conversation. We don't have enough of it. So we could kind of make sure we're on the same page. Both boards are here for the upbuilding of our communities and the betterment of our county. So the closer we keep our visions, I think the better off we are. So you guys got anything else or any questions, or anybody else got anything? If not, I think we'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion. Second.
All in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Not over.
Yeah, we already have the article, but we can try to put some information on campground.